Welcome back to some live Linux distribution development. We have here some, as mentioned in the previous live stream, Linux kernel panic and reboot. We have here some unrelated GitHub issue of people trying to use T2, which is of course amazing. If you're new to our stuff, it's our 20 year in the making, just raw, mostly fully automated cross-compiled Linux distribution. And people trying to use this, like, yeah, doesn't build on Windows subsystem for Linux Duo or other Linux distributions. And as mentioned in the previous live stream, I think it's a regression of our configuration. Our configuration we have for historic reasons, AK like GCC and G++ and stuff, and we have KCC for kernel C compiler mostly to, or actually only to have different kernel optimization options to be on the safe side. If you build your system with optimized like out of it of fast and this and that and whatever, that doesn't work necessarily or is stable with Linux kernel. So that is why for 20 years already we have KCC separate. Of course, no other distribution has that. And with that, let's see, because no other distribution has that, and I recently changed this. So until recently, I think that didn't matter. Also, that shouldn't be actually. And only, as I mentioned in the other live stream, let's maybe PowerPC. I had to change this to make some architecture more stable in terms of 64-bit versus not so this is a cross build, fine. And so I suspect config PowerPC, I think I did choose that. Let's remove user bin KCC so that nothing like live tinkering, it's just a symlink. And does it use KCC? I guess it uses KCC. I'm pretty sure. So in an ideal world, I should install freaking Windows subsystem for Linux or freaking Ubuntu, but for neither do I have time. So this is my best shot here at that. And I would say that is fair. Also, this is an older Linux kernel. Before people freak out, it's a freaking old Linux kernel. This is just for the ABI definitions, API and ABI definitions, and meaning the headers and stuff. And we intentionally use something slightly older so that our binaries work on. First of all, if we constantly update this stuff constantly breaks. I've been there, done that, I'm tired of that. And also, okay, so KCC. So this is exactly what I expected. So the problem cannot. So this is ironically not. Not in the error message there, but I would expect that should be the issue. Why would that? This is also when people paste. I mean, this certainly is an issue, right? We should not. So this is definitely my best quick shot on this issue. Is something we should improve, I would say. And let's see if this is, I only wonder why. Maybe they, why would that not be in the log though? Kernel, or is it too, okay, they had compiler cache, maybe that is why, which I usually don't use cutty. But we have here make.j. That's strange. What is Linux header? It's not in the log though, but that could be with our log be truncated in a way that it's not visible. So how do we fix this? We could simply, maybe we should simply not use KCC for the Linux kernel headers. At least not in the bootstrap stage. That's probably the easiest thing. the problem is it's a chicken and egg problem, and we actually rebuild this. It's actually imperfect because we start bootstrapping without a compiler and we build the cross compiler. The cross compiler needs already this Linux kernel API definition. So we basically start building without even having the proper compiler. And okay, this is apparently not here. Where's our KCC? I mean, either we could, where would we set it somewhere else? Of course we do. Then we probably set that here. Yeah, pass config. This is funny. It's usually better to not change the kernel optimizations too drastically. So it's basically what I said, but why? That is crazy. Why do we only set this KCC for GCC? That is a little bit fishy here. Yeah, 20 years later. Welcome everyone. 20 years later, you sometimes wonder why some line of code was written like this. We could, of course, SVN blame that, and we could also see if we set this anywhere else. Apparently not. So the issue is that would mean we have this KCC somewhat undefined when we, also maybe it defaults to CC, or I would actually say we should remove this code line, because if we build with Clang only for a system, if you really wanted that, this KCC define should not be undefined and do some random stuff. Yeah, so this is on a quick glance the only assignment in the whole source tree. Oops. Develop GCC. And so basically it was probably written in times where we nearly only had GCC and maybe ICC. Still not really a reason for that line of code though. Of course we don't have that in GCC. Mary, and yeah, revision super old. Okay, this is surprisingly larger than expected. This is some rocks rename. Interesting. Okay, CC equals. Yes, this is actually only config renames, so this is even older. Let's blame, will it even work? Might be that Subversion will complain. Oh no, it doesn't even work. Sometimes Subversion complains that there is no such old revision. Okay, so this is so super freaking old. It's revision 214, so that would be 2003 or whatever. 20 years later, live on YouTube. Freaking Unicode shit. Nah. Oh darn, and that option is even... What? Why is that a... What syntax error is that even? Can't make this stuff up. This is a syntax error. I want to block. So really hairy typo. Yeah, thank you very much. Yeah, 2003. Wait, code. Also, yeah, 20 years of commit messages. That is, of course, not the most professional commit message. Why is this? Oh, this was some Unicode hiccup. So where was it? This one here. Don't tell me that is revision 1. No, what 213? Oh darn. Wouldn't surprise me then if this is revision 1. That would be, wow, code so old it is there since revision 1. In freaking long time ago. Wow. 2003, there you have it. Nearly 20-year-old freaking code. Always a little bit... Yeah, so that subversion history doesn't really help us much. Why this code is there? I would only say... remove stuff. I think we want this always. And the only thing is we want this always except toolchain then so what would we usually use? CC probably? Toolchain and export, is that the most readable? So that would be my proposed. Okay, I was just wondering if this is too much white space. KCC equals. So we had there if defaults. So yeah, does it make sense? Toolchain just use CC. The only things we should double check that we use the same compiler. Actually, we should simply, I could assign this to CC, that would probably make sense. CC equals, yeah, CC, but actually I think it's simply better not to hard code this, but instead freaking use CC. That certainly makes even more sense. And let's see if that fixes this. So yeah, as I said, tech party, welcome everyone. This is my synthetic dry run solution. And so why do I do this? I mean, I could like YOLO whatever. It's not my problem. I don't freaking build on other Linux distributions because what is that? You should not have as written in, is it the 10? Okay, so that build, apparently I hope that would. Maybe it's not the 10 rules, maybe that is Exodus 22. You shall have no other distribution beside T2. But anyway, Not that we are too much in religions anyway. There is no good, there is only T2. So that stuff is building, and we would need to see, I mean, either we commit this, we are building with 16 jobs. How many threads do we have here on? That is a 3090, that should have also 32. I also have a CPU maybe. Or not, LS CPU, and then you don't see what you want to see. Yeah, CPU 32. So obviously we are building PowerPC, I think. I want to speed that a little bit up. We probably don't really want to wait for that, because not only is my currently defunct previous video stuck in panic workstation faster, but this mini ITX server is also thermally throttling, because it's apparently not the very best idea to put a 3950X in a mini ITX case, except maybe if you have water cooling, but with some rotating hard drives there is no space for water cooling. Although maybe I should try to fit it in there. So binutil, so basically that would take some 20 minutes of test building. I think I commit this and call it a day. What could possibly go wrong, right? Previously, so this GCC, this was misleading at best. So I would say just removing that should actually only improve some corner cases of building with Clang, if you wanted to do that. And this toolchain should only, I mean, we could quote CC, but unless you have spaces in there, which usually you should not have, I guess it's fine. Unless the other one is quoted, then GCC parse config of G, KCC of here, toolchain export KCC. I think that probably toolchain GCC, yeah. A little bit violating. I mean, ideally you should really only commit fully tested code. This code is of course not really fully tested. Not only have we not rebuilt the Linux kernel, actually we could. Let's maybe test it a little bit. I mean, the chances are slim, but you've seen the revision 200 something. I had a stupid typo back in the day. Linux header, and let's simply copy that from here to .t2. Was it trunk? I would hope. How many do I have here? T2 trunk. And let's just build the kernel here. What is beeping so much? So yeah, just have a little bit, not to commit something with a super trivial stupid typo again. Let's see, we have comments there. But yeah, so this is what people always don't see, right? They always think, yeah, some one-liner and stuff like 5 minutes. But yeah, with some surrounding testing, with some, I mean, sure, the stuff on YouTube, talking to you, talking with myself and you, takes a little bit longer. Checking the history, I could have just changed, of course. Checking the history takes another 5 minutes longer. Build, what did we wanted to also focus. Hello, focus. Build, that was PowerPC. Let's double check what we RDM logs. That was Linux header. KCC, so that should be a CC, and then that is reference. Also ironically this, no, this should be KCC, logs of 5, KCC. And of course otherwise, yeah, KCC, this otherwise should have a arch prefix if you're cross-building. So this is now a little bit more tested, and that's of course the difference between YOLOing it and doing it professionally. It could be even more tested, the cross-compile case could be tested, but attempt to fix bootstrapping T2 Linux header on, how do we call this, foreign or other distributions, actually systems. By not the KCC. Extracting or generating or building. Something of that sort. Attempt to fix bootstrapping T2 Linux on, or just actually T2 is, it's obvious, right? It's T2, so bootstrapping Linux header on otherwise by not using or relying. KCC something when in the tool change stage. I think shit, I committed this as data. It doesn't matter too much. Whatever. So yeah, that's it for this video. Something of that sort. So leave in the comments below if that worked for you. I hoped. But yeah, this is how long? Yes, it's another 30 minutes. But sure, without YouTube, maybe 15 minutes. Without, yeah. I mean, very theoretically, sure. This could have been 10 minutes, but yeah, that's what you get from trying to earn a living with a YouTube channel. And Dash asks, what is KCC used for? So as I explained in the very beginning of this video, which you probably have missed, this is our symlink. It's just a glorified symlink so that we can have other optimizations for the Linux kernel than for other stuff. Think, as I mentioned, think you want like fast math and whatnot for all your normal binaries, but that could potentially break the Linux kernel. Or additionally, we also use this actually, so when like 15 years ago, when you wanted to use a higher performance Intel ICC and build, like even the Linux kernel could be patched to build with ICC. I think it usually often didn't, at least for a long time, so that we could have more control over, that is why we actually patch, or do we patch? I think we patch the Linux makefile even to use KCC. Maybe there is some KCC patch probably, or at least we call it 20 kernel. This is why actually we theoretically could rename this, but anyway, we even patch this so that probably they use CCC or something, or whatever they use. So they use CC. So probably just to have a control over other helpers in the Linux kernel. And they're also building some helpers so that you would get them compiled with your system compiler. Anyway, so for that optimization and other compiler business, theoretically you could change the compiler in T2 for use Clang for C, use Clang plus, use GCC. Like you could set arbitrary stuff. Theoretically, I mean, I usually don't do that. I usually use one for everything, or for most. Theoretically, you could set, for example, C, use Clang for C, use GCC for C because it's most old-fashioned compatible stuff. Use Clang ++ for C++ because you anyway prefer that or whatever, and use whatever, right? An older compiler or ICC. Actually, the more sense would be like use ICC for C, use Clang ++ for C++, and use GCC for Linux kernels if you wanted to. Anyway, long story short. It is, of course, it only worked by pure chance and accident. And anyway, now this probably is fixed. I hope you learned something. Don't forget to subscribe.